which is going to be something that I think you'll find really interesting because I'm going to get into the science of how we know that our bodies, our biology is actually working for us. It's trying to protect us. It's not trying to fight us and make it hard for us. Because I know a lot of times, even myself over the years, I kind of felt like, geez, I'm doing everything right. I'm going to the gym. I'm eating pretty reasonably. I'm working hard. I'm managing my stress. I'm sleeping. I'm doing all the things. And somehow I feel like I just can't get ahead. I don't have the energy that I wish I had, and my body just feels like it's working against me. Well, I'll just say this simply: your body is smart, it's brilliant, it's intelligent, it's created with millennia of information and beauty and purpose, and it's responding to the signals that it gets. Your body's not getting emotional about all the signals, it just responds to them. It's smart, it's very adaptive. And we're going to get into that today with the lens that not only does it respond to the environment, the stimuli, the signals that you send it, but we, yours truly included, we have the power and the ability to change the overwhelming majority of those signals so that it'll respond in the way that we hope and dream, so we can build the person that we want to be, to become that human, our best version of ourselves, to be able to accomplish that goal, that dream, that wish, that purpose, that ikigai that we and only we were born to do. So I'm going to get into that in this episode, and I am so grateful to be here. Just another week of life is such a gift. So here's the thing, I alluded to it just a moment ago. Your body is always listening, always listening. It's gathering data. So the better question is, what is the conversation that you are having with it? A conversation that maybe you didn't even know existed, that you now are learning about, that you can send signals to your body. So here's the thing. Let's just share with you a little example. So let's say you walk into two separate houses at two separate times. One of them beautifully smells like fresh, homemade, just vibrant, beautiful, yummy, fresh home baked bread, like my grandmother used to make it. She used to make the most amazing bread. We'd pull it out of the oven, grab a piece of that, slap on some butter, no sugar needed, but fresh baked bread out of the oven. She loved to make sourdough, which, just thinking about it, she used a starter. It was high quality ingredients before the days of the GMO manufactured high gluten dwarf wheat that we have here in the US. She made it with all original ingredients, simple stuff that we could all pronounce, that we knew where it came from, and it was amazing. The second home you walk into smells like smoke, smells like fire. So within seconds, your brain is already making predictions about which home is the one that's safe to stay in and which you want to get the heck out, right? Your body is also doing the same thing. It's always asking questions. It's asking, am I safe? Are resources available? Should I build today? Should I build muscle? Or should I store fat? And the stress that I'm going through right now, is it going to be sustained or is it temporary? Should I prepare to hunker down for this long, stressful event that may not quit? Should I hunker down and prepare for danger? Those aren't really conscious decisions that you're aware of, that your body is actually making. They're biological, innate decisions that are being run by programming that has been around for millennia, programming that literally has come to be in a completely different environment than that in which we live today. There's this whole concept of evolutionary mismatch. I'm not going to talk about that today because I talked about it last week. But what I want to share and for you to remember is that every day we make thousands of small choices every single day. And every one of those is a signal. It's a signal sent to your body that it simply, honorably, religiously, faithfully responds to. Every single signal. Your body is like the best, most sophisticated, hardcore, amazing, beautiful AI ever created. Like the most sophisticated you could even imagine. It's always gathering data. And with that, it's making predictions. And then it's adapting. There's actually lots of research that is increasingly showing that your body is really a reflection of all its adaptations across all the data that it's getting. Multiple organ systems. It's not simply one piece of data. It's not just the blood sugar, although it's an important one it responds to, but there's so many others. And we're going to get into how each of those signals that we primarily send, whether we consciously appreciate it or not, that we are sending to our body and how it responds. Maybe this analogy might help. Maybe you've met somebody like this. Maybe you know, for example, I have in my life a couple sets of twins that I know well, identically, identically genetically the same, exact same DNA. Yet one of the ones I know is super healthy, fit, active. The other, not so much. And they have the same exact DNA, the same exact code with literally thousands and hundreds of thousands of base pairs showing their genetic blueprint, if you will. One of them is quite healthy, one of them is not. And they have the same exact programming, the same blueprint. Yet they are very different biologically, physiologically, energetically, all the things, right? One could easily go for a hike, climb up a mountain with me. The other, I'm not sure if he could do one or two flights of stairs in succession. And they have the same DNA, the same exact genetics. So genetics definitely matter. They're important. I have some genetics that I have a slight concern about. Like I have the ApoE4E allele that is predictive. Well, I would say not necessarily predictive, but that suggests an increased risk of Alzheimer's dementia, for example. And it runs strong in my family. I have an aunt, my mother's sister, who died in her 60s from severe, severe early onset end stage dementia. And maybe you don't know this, but dementia right now is, by some reports, the third leading cause of death after only heart disease and cancer. The third leading cause of death. Right now in the US of A, with over 7 million people here in the US having dementia, and it is literally the third, or by some reports, the fourth leading cause of death in this country. So, yes, I'm concerned about genetics, but more importantly, I'm concerned about the things that I can control because I can't control my genes. I just got them from my parents. Can't do a thing about it. They are written in. However, what I do get to pick is the signals I send my body, which will ultimately determine how they will interpret and use the DNA that I've been given. Because we can turn things off, we can turn things on. We get to pick that by our behavior, by our part of the story, if you will, not by what was given to us. So I believe, and actually the data shows this, that our bodies are always listening every moment, every minute, every hour, every second of every day. They don't just listen when you go to the gym or when you eat a salad. They're always listening. Even while you sleep, they're listening, they're soaking in every single signal. In fact, while we're talking right now, there's another conversation that's going on with your body. Like, for example, mine right here just made a note that I just hydrated with high quality hydration, simply containing fresh water, Himalayan sea salt, a squirt of lime, and that's it. It made note of that. It made note of the fact that I'm hydrating. We have a conversation, yet we may not be aware of it, but your body is always listening. The question is, what are you telling it? What are you telling your body? So, most of you know that for many decades, I worked as a board certified emergency doctor. In fact, I still work in a couple of ERs across the country because I love helping people in the acute, moment to moment, high need, high energy emergency that they were having, because I want to be the one to help. I love to be able to reach out and help somebody who's acutely in need. It's in my blood. In fact, my wife and I were just going for a hike last week in the mountains around Whistler. We were doing a couples retreat that, wow. We and some friends of ours, Rudy and Aniston Ricksteins, put together this couples retreat, and it was so transformative, so foundational and beautiful. And after we had finished this retreat, we stayed for one extra day and we were going for a little hike, going for a hike around a beautiful lake called Lost Lake. And we were going to do the lap around. There's a circular loop around the lake, and we were going to do that. And as we got to the end, Brooke felt strongly we should just keep going and not go back to the car. Or I should say back to the condo. We didn't, we just walked from the condo to this lake. We didn't drive or anything, but we had this impression, and she was like, I think we should just keep going. So we did. And within about 2 minutes, a lady on an e-bike with two little kids dumped this thing. She spun out on a corner because it was slippery, slippery gravel. And she ended up on the ground crying, her kids screaming, the bike on top of her. She couldn't get up. And we just happened to be there because we were guided to be there. And we were able to help her in a time of need. I said, hey, don't stress. I'm an ER doc. I can check things over. We'll make sure you get taken care of. And beautifully, I was able to respond to that. My wife was able to grab the kids and get them unbuckled, and while I attended to her, and it was a beautiful thing. And I love that. I love to help people in a time of need. Life-threatening stuff included strokes, heart attacks, major trauma. I've literally seen thousands and thousands of patients over the years. And what's interesting is almost always, with the exception of the acute traumatic events like this lady had, for example, most of the things that people came in with, like a stroke, like a heart attack, like a pneumonia, like a diabetic crisis with super elevated blood sugar, something called DKA or hyperosmolar coma, these sorts of things that present as an acute, severe, life-threatening emergency, almost all of them happened slowly, progressively, and had been developing quietly for weeks, months, or even years. For example, the heart attack started long before the chest pain that day. It started months and years prior. Same thing with type 2 diabetes and the complication of the DKA, as I shared, diabetic ketoacidosis. That didn't just start in one day. That started over weeks, months, and years. Those that would fall, especially as the elderly, that didn't happen just because of an acute event. It happened because of years of muscle decline and wasting called sarcopenia. Their body had been whispering for months or even years long before it screamed in that acute emergency that I took care of. And realizing that changed everything. I started to ask a different question. I used to just ask, well, how do we treat this acute process, this disease? Like, what do I need to do right now? And I still take care of what's happening right now, but I ask a new question of myself, of the clients that I work with. What do we do to not treat disease, but to create health? And that single question eventually became the foundation of my upcoming book, which I'm so excited about, with the working title, The Biology of Becoming. And here's what fascinated me is that the body of each of these patients that had come in with their emergency, it wasn't trying to betray them. It wasn't trying to work against them. It was simply adapting, simply responding. It was learning. It was actually trying to protect them. It was trying to survive. Just think about that. Your body wakes up every single morning with one primary objective, one job, and that job is to keep you alive. Think about that. If you only sleep 5 hours a night, your body adapts to that. If you are under constant stress that never lets up, your body adapts to that with increasing stress signals, right? The cortisol goes up and you start to get a little soft around the middle, that belly fat, that visceral adipose tissue, or that, as some people might call it, can be a result of ongoing chronic stress because your body thinks it's danger mode. We can't rest and repair because we're under danger, right? Or if your muscles are wasting away, this condition called sarcopenia, which is entirely preventable. But if you're not using your muscles, you haven't been to the gym in months or years or whatever that looks like, your body thinks, well, I guess I don't need to hang on to these muscles. And your muscle mass shrinks, it reduces. Your body adapts and adapts again. And so here's the thing. Your body is not broken. It's not, absolutely is not broken. Sometimes we feel like it is. And I felt like mine was in my 30s and early 40s when I just thought, what is happening to me? I just don't have the energy, the zest, the chutzpah. My brain says yes, and my body says no. I thought I had to fight my body. But what I realized is I wasn't broken. My body was doing its perfect, adaptive, faithful thing, which was responding to the signals I was sending it. I wasn't sleeping more than 5 hours a night. It was responding to that. I was under chronic stress. It was responding to that. I didn't understand that I was sending these signals to my body, and I learned the hard way. Let me just give you another example just to kind of tie the knot on this. As far as imagine you're driving home from work. You pull over at a 7-Eleven to just grab some water. You're just parched. You're filling up your tank of gas, and it starts raining, like literally cats and dogs rain. So what do? Maybe you grab the umbrella that was already in your car. If you live in Hawaii, we have umbrellas around. Or you buy one at 7-Eleven. You buy an umbrella. So did the umbrella cause the rain? Did it cause the problem? Of course not. You adapted to the situation, got the umbrella, right? That's kind of what your body does. When your body becomes insulin resistant, it doesn't do that to harm you. It does that to try to protect you because it sees that the blood sugar is rising And it doesn't want that high blood sugar or hyperglycemia to hurt your tissues because blood sugar is sticky. So it sends out more and more and more and more insulin. And doctors that don't understand this, they just throw more and more and more insulin to type 2 diabetics, which is actually not what's going to ultimately fix the problem. The problem isn't too much insulin in the beginning. The problem is the overarching lifestyle habits that were pushing that glucose up. Too many carbs, too many highly processed carbs, especially the big three that I only ask people to avoid. Three things. That's it. Highly processed sugars, right? Especially that highly processed high fructose corn syrup. Avoid it like the plague, or any other highly processed sugar. Avoid also the highly processed grains and flours. Those are super metabolically not good or not healthy for your body. And then third, the seed oils. Like avoid those three things and then just add rather than subtract. Add a bunch of fresh single ingredient fruits, vegetables, etc., etc. Your body is simply responding. It's not fighting you. In fact, there's a recent paper that came out that talks about insulin resistance, and they say, you know what's interesting? It actually starts as a physiological defense mechanism, a physiological defense mechanism. In fact, I'm going to see if I can pull that up for you. It was super interesting. It was talking about adaptation, and well, the one that I was going to share, this is one that talks about how your insulin resistance can improve with some simple daily acts. One is simple body movement, just simple movement, exercise, movement. That was Rebello et al. In 2023, who really showed how significantly you can improve your insulin sensitivity with one simple thing. It's called exercise or movement. It's simple. So a lot of times we think that maybe we're broken. I used to think my metabolism was broken. It must have slowed down. Shoot, I'm in my late 30s. I'm in my 40s now. It just has to slow down, right? I know it's not the same as when I was 16, but actually, in our adult years between 18 and 60, we have data now from Science, one of the premier medical journals, that your metabolism essentially doesn't change much at all. It doesn't slow down throughout adulthood until at least you're 60. What does change is us. We change, right? If we think about how active we were in our teens, maybe we played sports on a team. Like my kids, I got a couple that go to organized gymnastics training 3 hours a day. How many of us as adults get 3 hours of movement a day? It's no wonder they can process their foods and things much better than we, because they're moving like crazy. We have likely over the years slowed down. Maybe we sit in a chair at an office 8 hours a day. We sit in our cars to commute. I do that. I'm guilty of that. I typically, wherever I am in the world, I got to commute an hour to get to work, get to a grocery store, get to any of those places that I might need to go, like Costco, because I got 4 teenage boys. Well, actually 3 now and a 20-year-old, but they eat a lot of food. And so I sit a lot, but I also move a lot. In fact, that's why I'm talking to you standing. I'm at a standing desk, right? You've seen me do that, and you know about that. And I always talk about walking or moving after a meal, which I do religiously, because I learned that my metabolism is not broken. It's just been adapting, right? I'll share with you a case example of a guy I used to work with that he's doing so amazing now. He's a guy, we'll just call him Mike. He was in his early 50s, kind of like me. And he came in one day, I'll never forget it. His face was sunken. He was looking at the floor. He says, "Doc, I don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't even eat a lot, but I'm exhausted all day. I'm gaining weight. No matter what I do, I keep gaining weight each and every year. I've gained 30 pounds over the past couple of years. My blood sugar keeps climbing. My primary doc says, hey, we're getting close to that pre-diabetic phase. In the 90s is the fasting blood sugar, but I don't get it. I work hard. I don't even eat a lot." And so we looked at all the things. We got a detailed history. I usually spend an hour or so with my patients on the first visit. And what I found right away, straight away, that he was only sleeping on average 5 hours a night. He'd been doing that for years, probably a decade. He was also on the road all the time. He was traveling constantly. And so when he did eat, most of his meals came from either an airport or a drive-through. And also, we talked about movement. He actually was doing cardio at a gym a couple times a week, but he hadn't picked up a proper weight. Something like this that I keep at the base of my desk. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm doing some triceps curls while I talk to you, because I like to incorporate movement into my day. And so I have to have weights on the floor. So I get reminded. I also have a little alarm on my phone that every hour it says, hey, 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 time to move. And so if I haven't done much in that past hour, I do some air squats or I do a quick plank or I run over, I got a pull-up bar in my house or I do some, like I just did there, I grab the weight that's at the base of my desk. And he hadn't done anything with weights for years. He was doing some cardio, but he hadn't done any weights. He sat a lot, as I shared. And he was also carrying enormous stress. He was the CEO of his small company. He was the father of 5 kids. He was busy. And he just said, I just think my body gave up. I think it's just, I'm doing, I'm so busy. I'm so active. I don't even eat much, but I'm gaining weight. I don't get it. I just feel like my body's not cooperating anymore. And I said, you know what, Mike? I actually think your body is just trying to protect you. In fact, it's working overtime to protect you. And then I stopped and he looked at me kind of confused. And then he kind of smiled. And he's like, wow, no one ever had really explained it that way. And so over the next few months we were working together, we focused on the signals that he could send his body versus the ones that he was sending and not knowing it. Unknowingly was sending signals to tell his body, hey, you're in constant stress, constant fight or flight, constant sympathetic nervous system stress. We need to increase your cortisol, which is going to make you gain belly fat around the middle. It's also going to drain you. It's going to make you feel tired all the time. Instead, we just focused on some simple signals. So simple, in fact, that he kind of, at the end of the first visit, he was like, really? This is going to be the thing? I said, look, Mike, it's those small daily actions repeated consistently on the daily that will not only change your life for the short term for now, but for the future. Your future self will be thanking you that you did these simple little things. We just started prioritizing sleep. We marked it into his calendar. He was going to get minimum 7 hours of sleep every night. We increased his protein intake. We went up to 35 to 40 grams per meal. Guess what? His weight actually dropped. And he's a dude, and I know dudes sometimes will have greater success in a shorter term, but he started to lose weight. We didn't even try to lose weight. In fact, I increased what he was eating over what he had eaten before, but we focused on starting every meal with protein. We sourced our foods better, tried to not get them from the drive-throughs and the airports, but rather we packed protein he could take with him, nuts and things to have for snacks so he didn't have to reach for non-healthy snacks. He started to sleep better. He started to go to the gym just twice a week to lift weights. He started walking after meals. He also started getting up in the morning to see the morning light and going for a walk. And he started to view his body differently. That no more was he thinking his body was trying to hurt him, harm him, work against him, but his body was actually trying to protect him. He was trying to work together and partner with his body rather than working against it, rather than fighting. He started to see his body as a teammate. And with that shift, within a couple of months, his fasting insulin dropped dramatically. I think it was about 19 we first checked. It came down to 7 in just 2 months' time. He had lost 20 pounds in 2 months. He eventually lost almost 50. And we hadn't even really focused on weight loss. We weren't doing any special diet. We just changed the signals. It was incredible. This is what I do all the time. And the beautiful thing is that the data, the modern physiology that we're now aware of consistently supports this way of thinking that you have the power to change the signals you send to improve your future. Your future self depends on you today, the choices you make today, how it's going to react to the blood sugar with insulin, how it can dispose of the extra blood sugar, like by moving your muscles after meals, by walking. It creates these adaptations every single day that aren't just limited to the liver, right? The liver is a metabolically active, but it also involves your very adipose tissue. Did you know you can increase the mitochondria, the powerhouses, the energy producing cells in your body? In fact, including those in your fat, you can so-called brown your own fat with certain exercises, with certain activities, cold plunge, sauna, for example, and that you can even help your blood vessels become more pliable, less stiff, and more clear. Like you can reduce your own calcium in your arteries through anti-inflammatory measures that we can talk about in a minute. So here's the thing. He gave me a hard time about this because I said, look, you don't even have to go run the treadmill at the gym. And I know you've been trying to do that. Just walk after meals. 10 minutes a day after 3 meals is 30 minutes. That means you've walked 30 minutes a day. You don't have to go run a marathon. You don't have to do an ultra marathon. You don't have to even do none of that. Just walk several times a day. And as you know, I've shared this data that if you walk consistently after meals, the effects are profound, more so even than if you walked 30 minutes in a row, or more than that before a meal. If you just walk 10, 15 minutes after the meal, the metabolic effects are much more powerful. The data shows it. So not because walking is magic, but because walking sends your body a signal. It's telling your body, hey, guess what? We're active now. We still need to use these muscles. We need to preserve them, not only because they're metabolically the most efficient and energy producing and anti-inflammatory producing for that matter. Muscle actually sends a lot of messages to decrease inflammation, these things called myokines, like interleukin 6, for example, to decrease inflammation. And so you're just sending a signal, a very simple signal by walking, telling your body, hey, we still need this muscle. We need to manage our resources. It's all a choice. Every choice is a signal. Every signal shapes your biology. And over time, your biology shapes the person you're becoming. So we're going to get into what are the most important signals that your body is listening to and which ones you can easily take charge over. And kind of like Mike asked me, he thought, gosh, I think my body's broken. I don't get it. Like my body is telling me I'm lazy and I'm not. I actually move, I work hard. I'm not even eating much. Like what's going on? He's like, I can look at food and gain weight. That's what he told me at the first visit. He was honestly, he's like, I don't get it. I hardly eat anything and I'm gaining weight. Well, we sorted out that the signals were a little bit crossed up. The body was trying to protect him because it was under high stress. It wasn't getting much sleep and never got time to recover, rejuvenate, repair because he was only sleeping 5 hours a night. So what we learned was his metabolism wasn't broken. It was simply responding. It was adapting to the conversation he was having with his body that he hadn't even realized. Right? Think about this. Think about if you live in the mountains or if you live in a place that gets cold in the winter, your thermostat's going to change a bit when it goes from summer to winter, right? It's going to change in the sense that when it starts getting real cold, the thermostat is just going to take that in and go, oh, that's interesting. It's getting cold. If you have AC, the AC shuts down. It's not going to go turn on, and maybe you'll have some heat that'll turn on. It doesn't get upset, excited, or emotional. It just responds, right? It doesn't panic. It doesn't get angry. It just responds. It doesn't say, I'm going to quit. It just notices, senses the environment, says, hey, okay, this is what we do now. It senses what's out there, gets the stimuli, the signal of the temperature outside and temperature indoors, and it just responds to it. It's programmed. Your metabolism is exactly the same. It's simply responding to the programming that's there. It's always collecting information every minute, every hour of the day. It's noticing how much muscle use it's getting. Are we using our muscles? How are we sleeping? Are nutrients constantly available or intermittently? Should we conserve energy or should we spend it? Your metabolism doesn't get emotional, it just adapts, right? So, like with Mike, I think many of us have thought, even I did, that my body was broken. I even thought, I don't get it. Like, I feel like I'm lazy, but I know I'm not. I'm working really, really hard and I don't even eat much and I'm gaining weight. So, here's what I found taking care of patients over the last 25 years is that I've met lots of people, remarkably diligent, very, very hardworking, yet they were absolutely exhausted. Business owners, parents, nurses, teachers, first responders, police officers. They were working hard. Many of them, especially here in Hawaii, and most people work 2 to 3 jobs. They weren't lazy at all, yet they were gaining weight. They didn't get it. They would walk at work, stand at work, work hard. In fact, yesterday, this was so sweet. I saw this gal that I used to work with in the ER, and she was working at Walmart, her second or third job. And she was like, "Hey, doc, how are you?" And we had a good little chat. And I looked at her and smiled, and I thought, gosh, she works so hard, but she just looks so tired. She looks really stressed out, right? It's common, not because their body is working against them. Their body is simply responding. It's just responding to the signals that we send it each and every day, sometimes for years until we finally notice it. Well, I hope you'll notice it now. Notice it now. We actually have the power to change most of those signals. And as I shared, the modern science, the data, the physiology supports that, right? It supports that. And so nowadays, we used to just say this thing like, the secret to weight loss, metabolism, health. It's just move more, eat less. Well, that's not the whole picture, right? We just need to change the signals, right? We still need to move, absolutely. We don't necessarily have to eat less. We might just need to eat differently, right? In fact, my first book, Preventable, which many of you have, it's right here. Those of you watching on YouTube, Preventable: 5 Powerful Practices to Avoid Disease and Build Unshakable Health. I had this discussion in that book. We talked about what many do and have done for at least a century. There was a book that came out that talked about dieting, and it was all about calorie counting. And I'm not going to say it's not important or it's useless to count calories, but more importantly, more than just the number, the calorie, the caloric um, quality of our food is that food is actually information. It's information more than just a simple number. It's not just a calorie, right? 100 calories of broccoli is much different than 100 calories of Oreo cookies, right? But yet you think that they're the same because, oh, it's just 100 calories. I have to exercise this much to burn it off. Well, not exactly. One causes incredible inflammation, the other reduces it. It's a big difference. Inflammation, guess what it does? It drives edema or swelling. You'll weigh more because you're inflamed. How do I know? Well, I used to be inflamed. I've also worked with many patients who were inflamed. We do a test, we measure. It's called highly sensitive CRP, for example. And when you're inflamed, you don't have energy because your energy is being sucked away as this slow, smoldering fire of inflammation burns it. You have nothing left in the tank because that inflammation burns a lot of energy. And so you're exhausted, right? So here's the thing. The good thing is we can change the signals that we send. We can do it tonight. All right, let's say you just ate dinner. Instead of sitting and watching your favorite episode on Netflix, YouTube, whatever that is, just get up and move for 10 minutes. It doesn't have to be an hour, just 10, 15 minutes. Go for a walk, right? You can pick. You can either sit on the couch or you can go for a 10-minute walk, which you think it matters which one you pick? Well, I would say if you pick the walk and you do it every time you eat, that's going to matter significantly over the next couple of years. You'll have two different scenarios, right? 10 years from now, your body, when you've made the choice to move after every meal, is going to say, Thomas, thank you so much that you sent me that signal that I need to keep, hold on, maintain, keep valuing my muscle because you're using it like crazy. You've sent me great signals. Or, Thomas, hey, man, you were sitting on the couch after eating. And so I had no choice but to remove some of that muscle because you just weren't using it. And I'm telling you, the outcome would be very, very different. In fact, there's multiple scientific papers showing the value, as I shared earlier, of moving after meals, just a simple 10, 15 minutes, because your muscles are literally the most metabolically active and they'll soak up the blood sugar that's available after you eat. It acts as a so-called sink for the glucose. And it's saying, hey, I'll take care of this. It's one of the simplest and yet most powerful things that you can do. So if your metabolism is just adapting and your body's always listening, we're going to go over a couple other signals that we'll talk about, right? We talked about movement, right? We've talked about the fact that it's always responding. Well, what the heck is it responding to? We've alluded to a few things. It's responding to the amount you sleep or don't sleep, the amount of movement you do or don't do. None of this requires perfection, right? You don't have to be perfect with any of this. You just have to be consistent. That's it. So the first conversation you're having with your body, and you may not even realize, is with respect to the most powerful signal, I believe, of all. And Matthew Walker would love that I'm saying this because that first signal in my signals method is sleep. You've got to understand, appreciate, and value your sleep for the powerhouse that it really is. It's so foundational. Nothing else actually works well in your body if you're not sleeping well. I had to learn this the hard way. I didn't believe it. I thought, sleeping's for the weak. I can get by with 4 hours a night. I've been doing it for years and I don't need sleep. I got too much to do. Well, you know what? Your body views that. It was saying to me, well, I guess I never can really repair. I can't take the time to recover, recuperate, repair because he's not giving me that time. He's not giving me that grace. So he's just going to walk around inflamed all the time. And I did. He's going to have low energy all the time. And I did. Because sleep isn't just rest. It's actually the time that your body is extremely active by repairing the damage that's been done over the course of the day. You have this thing, this beautiful system in the brain called the brain's glymphatic system. And that actually removes all the toxins that accumulate during the day. That's why Short sleep has been shown to increase your risk of all the dementias, all the neurodegenerative changes, diseases, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, all the things. Decreased sleep worsens every single one of them more powerfully than having a gene like I do, the ApoE4 allele, that will put me at risk for Alzheimer's. If I short sleep, absolutely, that's going to be a double whammy, no good. But I've decided to focus, to put priority on my sleep. And it's beautiful, right? There was this landmark study in Science magazine that talked about this. XIE, and colleagues shared about how this brain glymphatic system works. And Dr. Neidergaard out of the University of Rochester first discovered this, I believe, in about 2006. So now we know how valuable and important sleep is. Don't underestimate the power of your sleep. That's the first and most foundational, very important signal. The conversation that's happening, whether or not we realize is with sleep. The second is with food. The food that we eat or don't eat, the food that we put into our mouths. It's a conversation. Your body notices. It responds. Most people think, it's just calories, just fuel. It's simply just fuel, but it's way more than that. It's information. I love how one of my colleagues, you probably know Mark Hyman, he's trained, as am I, in functional and integrative medicine. In fact, I have a degree in integrative medicine from the very institution that he works with called the Institute for Functional Medicine. And we think similarly that food is way more than just calories, way more than just fuel. It's actually information. Every bite tells your body something. It says, protein, for example, hey, we got to build and maintain muscle. Fiber might say, hey, you got to feed the microbiome. Colorful plants, beautiful colorful plants like I love, deep purples, pomegranate, for example, luscious grapes. In Hawaii, we have all kinds of fun fruits, mango, lychee, etc. It says, hey, I got the phytochemicals available to decrease inflammation. You've heard of these different adaptogens that plants possess. They're beautiful. They're on purpose. And when we eat these beautiful, colored, super bright, brilliant vegetables and fruits, our body goes, oh, it's important to lower inflammation. And so I don't ask the question, should I eat this? Should I not eat this? I ask this question: what conversation does my body see happening with this or that? How is it receiving the signal, right? What signal is this particular food sending to my body? What's the signal that I'm sending with this bite of food? And sometimes I'll change what I put in my mouth based upon just that question. What signal am I sending to my body if I decide to eat a couple of Oreos? Well, it's going to be a little bit of a different signal than if I choose to put a handful of nuts in my mouth, right? It's a totally different signal. I'm going to share with you about a gal I used to work with called, we'll just call her Susan. That wasn't her real name, but she came to me telling me basically, I've tried every diet you can imagine. In fact, I don't even enjoy really eating anymore because I've tried so many things and none of them work. In fact, I have this thought that, like, no matter what I eat, I'm always breaking some kind of rule, some kind of dietary rule. And I just don't like it. I don't even, in fact, enjoy eating that much anymore. And I just smiled and I said, hey, Susan, let's not talk about rules. Let's not talk about this or that, yes and no's, do's and don'ts. Let's just talk about simple nourishment. We're not going to count calories. We actually aren't going to count them at all. And she was like, what? I'm like, yeah, you don't have to count calories. Focus first on prioritizing protein and fiber and healthy fats and just real whole single ingredient foods. Focus on taking a walk after every meal. And just focus on eating colorful vegetables and fruits with amazing phytochemicals in them, things that are bright, brilliant, beautiful. Just eat real food. You don't have to count any calories. Guess what happened? Her energy skyrocketed because her inflammation went down. Her fasting insulin dropped significantly. She lost weight, and we didn't even specifically try to lose weight because we didn't put her on a caloric deficit. We just changed the signals. Food was no longer the enemy. It actually became one of her greatest allies because we changed the conversation. And we just asked a different question. What signal is this food sending my body now? What's the signal I'm sending? The next signal that I hope you'll think about is muscle. This one could surprise you a little bit. Muscle is not just about, looking good at the beach, right? It's not just about strength. Muscle is actually one of our largest endocrine organs, meaning that it sends out hormonal messengers. I mentioned this briefly earlier, called myokines, for example. It can decrease inflammation. It can soak up the glucose from a meal. It's literally the organ of longevity. It's the organ of metabolism. Like if there's one thing that you'll focus on after today, I hope it's besides sleep, which is foundational, focus on building muscle. Muscle is literally the key ingredient for a healthy metabolism and for longevity. So Morton et al. Did this great study in 2018, as well as Quell Jr. et al. In 2022, that were looking at my favorite thing, which is good old fashioned pumping iron, resistance training, if you will. And what they both found was that one of the most effective ways, not only to preserve muscle, but also to improve inflammation and improve metabolism, was to increase your muscle mass at any stage of life. In fact, there was a great study done about 10 years ago looking at quote unquote the elderly, which meant in this study over 70. And it showed that not only can you improve and increase your muscle mass in your 70s, but you can improve your health, metabolism, and longevity. It was amazing. They did this study. It lasted, I think, 4 years. And one group had some, I think it was just 2 days of resistance training. The other group didn't have any specifics. They could do what they called ad lib, which is just their usual routine. And the group that was doing the 2 days a week of resistance training, not only did they have significant and huge benefits in the study period of the 4 years, they actually lasted for years after that. Why? Because it sends the body a different signal. It says, hey, body, we're using our muscles. We want to keep them around. We want to stay active for all the years that we're alive. We want to be able to go upstairs. We want to be able to play catch with the grandkid. We want to be able to carry our own groceries, put our own suitcase in the overhead bin. We want to be able to do the things, squat. We want to get off on and off the toilet ourselves, right? Or maybe if it's me, I want to surf. I want to surf till I'm 100 years old. I'm going to do it because I'm committed to it, because I'm not slowing down. I'm just as active today as I was years ago. In fact, just this past week, I was on a flight chatting with a beautiful soul. And we were talking about this very thing. And he was kind of looking at me like I was a little bit whacked and crazy. Like, what? What do you mean you're that active? And I messaged him that evening. We got in kind of late, I think around 6. Sun sets at 7. And I went straight to the beach and got out in the water for my grounding, the beautiful ocean water in Hawaii, to ground and also go surfing. Even after a super long travel day, it was actually the middle of, it was the preceding day of our hurricane. So it was super rainy. The water was a little bit in the chocolate melt category. It was windy, kind of crazy, chaotic. And I went out to go surf because I knew that my body needed to get the message. I got to hold on to this muscle. I got to pay attention. I got to keep that balance available because it's important. It matters to me. I want to keep doing this. I want to keep surfing. I want to keep hiking. I want to keep saying yes to adventures. And that doesn't happen if we choose to sit on the couch and watch Netflix. It's just not going to happen. I'm not opposed with Netflix. I have an account of Netflix. I watch it maybe once a week, but not every night. I'd rather move my body. I usually go for a walk after dinner with my wife. I love that time. It's beautiful, magical. We leave the phones behind and we just chat and we move and we soak up the fresh air. It's beautiful. In fact, that leads me to the next conversation piece, which is after resistance training muscle, it's just simple movement. Not exercise, just movement. Your body knows, it pays attention. Like me, once again, in the standing desk, like change your environment a bit. If you can't do a standing desk or you don't have one, maybe schedule like I do on my phone. Every hour, have your phone alert you to say, hey, time to get up and move. Maybe it's you're going to just go walk around the office building or go up and down the stairs or drop down and do a couple push-ups, whatever that is. Do some movement all throughout the day, because that message tells your body something very different than if you choose to sit on the couch, right? It tells your body, hey, I got to pay attention. He wants to move. She wants to preserve muscle. She wants to stay active. I better hang on to that muscle. Maybe we still want to go explore or hunt or hike or play tennis or racquetball, whatever that is. The body recognizes that signal, and that signal changes your biology. And as I've shared, there's so much research out there that is looking at these very simple things like walking throughout the day, especially after meals, how powerful they are. It's not sexy, right? It's not a fancy red light or cold plunge or whatever. It's something simple that we all have available. 2 legs, just go out and walk. It's a simple signal, but it creates a ripple effect that your metabolism notices. All right, the next conversation that you're having, whether you like it or not, or whether you realize it or not, is with respect to stress. Like the guy I first shared about, Mike, in the earlier example, he was the proud owner of his own company, had 5 kids. He was stressed out, and his body noticed. In fact, it had very elevated cortisol. He even had some burnout, some fatigue from that. He was burning the candle at both ends. As I shared, he was sleeping 5 hours a night. His body noticed, and what his body received from that conversation was that it's not safe to do repairs, to slow down, to rejuvenate. I got to be on alert because I feel like there's something happening each and every day, all the time, 24/7. As I open up the phone and there's millions of messages there, and the text and the emails, the messages coming in. I got to just stay alive, survive, right? So maybe you've heard of Dr. Bruce McEwen's work. Fascinating work. Talks about what's called allostatic load, which is kind of like this chronic, constant wear and tear that just kind of accumulates over the course of our days, months, and years, and how our stress levels can be activated and stay activated, as I just shared, without having the benefit of recovery if we keep sending these signals of stress. But the opposite is also true. We can send a different signal because your body always asks the same question. It says, are we safe? Are we safe? Can we recover? Can we take time to sleep 7, 8 hours? Can we take a moment of mindfulness? Maybe it's a simple prayer or just a reflection of the day, gratitude. Maybe it's writing in a journal. Maybe it's taking a brief walk at sunrise or sunset and just leaving the phone behind and focusing on nature, focusing on our breath, focusing on the birds chirping. It's just having a deep breath or three. Did you know that you could literally change your physiology with 3 deep breaths? Yeah, it's scientifically proven. What better way to access that beautiful parasympathetic nervous system that tells our body it's safe to rejuvenate, to repair, to decrease that allostatic load, that stress. All these things matter. Maybe it's a family dinner. Put the phones in the center. Just communicate. Talk about the day, the meals, the fun, the hard, the difficult, the challenging, the beauty. Talk about it all and just enjoy each other. Enjoy the company. Guess what goes up? Your oxytocin goes through the roof. And you know what that beautiful hormonal signal does? It lowers your stress. It lowers your blood pressure. It improves resilience. It says, hey, it's safe now to repair and to thrive, not simply survive. All right. Another conversation, which is a beautiful segue to stress, is the power of the L in my signals method, the power of love and connection. I love this. I've never read a health book to this day that really speaks enough into this beautiful, powerful signal that we can send every single day. Love and connection. In fact, I love it so much. I call it vitamin C for connection. I think it's literally the most powerful signal with respect to the data that we see in the blue zones. And I visited 3 or 4 of them over the years, and they all have as a foundational behavior and concept that the people are very connected. They literally live 3, 4 family generations in the same home, the same block, same street, same edifice in some places, and they literally have the connection. They don't chew out their elders and send them to a care home. They connect with them, they value them, and they receive it. And they take part in the activities and the conversations and the walks. They're out there connecting. Having meaningful relationships is probably one of the most powerful things, not only for longevity, but for happiness, right? The Harvard study on happiness that's continuing to evolve. I think it's 100+ years in the works. And the current lead author actually just spoke at a convention my wife attended. And he spoke about this. He spoke about connection and also the antithesis, which is loneliness, which is fostered by excessive dependence on devices like cell phones, social media, all the things. They rob our connection because it's not true connection. Connecting with a human is very different than connecting with that gadget. So Julianne Holt-Lunstad did a landmark study which showed that social isolation carries a huge significant mortality risk. Even more risky than smoking cigarettes is isolation. Can you believe that? Yeah, check it out. Julianne, I should say, Holt-Lunstad. It was astounding. And we all got a dose of this, right? During the initial throes of COVID. I got it significantly. It was crazy. I had the things I witnessed in the ER working during that. Young people literally taking their own lives because they were so isolated, so lonely. you can't get much more severe than that. Huge mortality risk, loneliness. The opposite is simple, love and connection. It's not just emotional, it's biological connection. When I take a walk with one of my kids or with my wife, Brooke, or just spend time with my family, it sends my biology an entirely different message that it's safe. It's safe to recover. You belong. You're loved here. Never, never, never underestimate this signal, which I really feel like could be the most powerful and one of the most simple. And I really think it's the primary reason that these folks in the blue zones are so long lived is because of this incredible connection. Maybe you guys have read the book, The Outliers. The opening story in this book is a profound example of this. And the gentleman who writes the book, I'm not going to say his name, but you might be familiar. I was very pleased that he included this study. It was of a town somewhere in the Midwest. I can't recall, but it was looking at risk factors for heart disease, death, so on. And it was looking at the average resident of this certain town and just a member of the town in the Italian community. I believe they were all from a similar place in Italy, if I'm not mistaken. And what they found was very interesting. Those in that community had about a 10-year longer life and decreased risk of many health challenges, including heart disease and about every other thing that you can think of. And they lived longer. And yet, if you looked at them, you know what's fascinating is they didn't look like athletes. Some of them, in fact, many of them even smoked. They didn't have the perfect lifestyle, but what they did have was lots of love and connection. So I'm not giving you a free reign to go and eat terribly and smoke and do other not so amazing things and just have lots of love and connection. But what I am saying is the power of love and connection is not only palpable, like you can feel it like on a daily basis, but it is one of the most powerful biologic signals. And I think it was actually a little bit underappreciated in this book. But they did mention the difference in this certain community, which I thought was fascinating. But I really believe that that was based upon the love and the connection, the community involvement that this Italian community had. Lots of connection. So interesting. All right, the last signal I'm going to share, and we're going to close out because we're getting close to the hour, and you're probably ready to get your movement on, or maybe you've been walking during this episode, which I hope maybe you have. The last I want to share about is purpose. This is the thing in Japan they called ikigai. Every morning, your body's going to ask you, "Hey, what are we getting ready for today? What's my mission? What are we getting ready for? What does the rest of your life look like? What mission, desire, goals, dreams, purpose, ikigai are we going to accomplish?" It's going to ask what our purpose is. And it's going to base that upon what we're doing, how we recover, how we eat, how we persevere and have resilience to stressful situations, right? Personally, I don't want to live longer just to accumulate birthdays, just to be that guy who is the first surfer at 100 years old. I want to do it because I want to spend more time with my family, more time with Brooke, more time with my kids. I want to surf with my grandkids, my great grandkids. That's my goal, to have 4 generations surfing in the water at one time. Myself, my kids, my grandkids, and my great grandkids. That would be so meaningful and valuable to me to have that connection. And more opportunities to serve. I want to be around longer so I can positively influence more people. I want to share the love, the joy, the passion that I have, the zest for life and living well. I want to share that with you and millions of others, right? Right now in the US, somewhere in the neighborhood of 2 million people die per year from preventable causes like heart disease, many cancers, type 2 diabetes and its challenges. Most of these conditions that people die from have lots of opportunities to not only resolve, treat, cure, but also prevent. And so I want to effectively help at least 100 million people because I'm planning to live at least another 50 years, 2 million people a year. That would be miraculous to me, to help 100 million people, help those 2 million a year in the US that are dying of preventable causes. I would love to do that. I would love to do that for you, for your family, because that's what brings me joy. And so I want to just share that having purpose, having an ikigai, a reason to get out of bed in the morning, as the Japanese would say, is one of the most powerful signals you can send your body that it's worth being around another day, that you have a goal, a dream, a mission that you are going to accomplish, that only you can do that. And so the signals that you send your body will make all the difference. So here's a couple questions I want you to ask with respect to sleep. Just ask, hey, What did I ask my body to repair last night? Did I give it the opportunity to repair? Nutrition, you could ask the question, what message am I sending to my body with the meals that I've eaten or will eat today? What's the message I'm sending? With respect to muscle, you could say, did I remind my body that it still needs strength, that it knows that I'm going to keep doing things until I'm 100 years old? Do I need to preserve muscle? What message did I send my body? Hopefully, you sent some kind of message through movement. With respect to stress, did I give my nervous system the permission, the chance, the opportunity to recover? Did I take a couple of deep breaths? Did I go for that walk in the woods? Did I do a little gratitude in my journal? With respect to connection, love and connection relationships, I can think about the people in my life. Who did I give the opportunity to connect with me? Who helps me feel safe? Who helps me feel loved? Did I spend time with them? And then for purpose, what am I preparing my body to do? What's my purpose? What am I here for? Only you can answer that question. I promise every one of you has a unique gift. You are here for a reason. You are here for a purpose. You have value. You're not broken. Your body's not broken. It's just responding. So think about these conversations. Your body is having them. Now you're just aware. You're aware. What can you do to change the signals? How can you become more energized, more passionate, have more joy? Can you actually become younger? Well, I shared with you last week, I became recently 16 years younger biologically by changing the signals. Can you reverse that if your answer is not the one that you desire? Can your body recover? The answer is absolutely yes. A strong, euphoric, absolutely yes. You can change the signals, which can change your biology, which can change your life. Because after all we've shared about today, your body is always listening. It's always adapting. Every choice is a signal. Yes, you can change your biology. Yes, you can become healthier. Yes, you can become stronger. Yes, you can become biologically younger. It's not because of one perfect day of eating or perfect diet or perfect miracle workout or miracle supplement. No, it's a bunch of simple decisions done repeatedly, day after day, week after week, month, and years down the road. Changing the signals will change your biology, which will change your life. So I'm just going to share with you in conclusion, there was this great study done by a colleague of mine, Carrie Fitzgerald, in 2021. She actually showed with data that, yes, you can decrease your biological age with these same signals, changing the signals. Also in the popular medical journal called Circulation, they looked at the same sorts of things, and they looked at lifestyle, and they found, guess what? The people with healthy lifestyle habits, guess what? They live longer. They spend many more years disease-free. That was out of Circulation 2018. Liu et al. Also in the BMJ in 2020. Yes, it matters. Those decisions matter. So I'm just going to introduce a challenge that I want you to think about and do this week. Here's my challenge to you. I want to invite you to do something with me. I'll do it with you. Not for a year or forever, just for 7 days. I want you to try it out. I want you to see if it makes a difference. For 1 week, focus on every day the signals that you're sending to your body. Maybe it means you need to go to sleep 30 minutes earlier. Maybe you got to eat a little bit more protein. Maybe you're going to incorporate these 10-minute walks after your meals. Lift something heavy a couple of times during the week. Call somebody you love to connect, have that connection. Maybe it's just spending a few moments outside for the morning light. Maybe it's just taking 5 slow, deep breaths before every meal or before opening your email. Don't grab your phone within 30 minutes of awakening. Give yourself the grace of having some time for connection, connecting with yourself, connecting with family, with God, your creator, your universe, your beautiful, beautiful world that's around you. Don't grab that cell phone first thing in the morning. And then at the end of this week, just notice how you feel. Not just what your weight is, but how you feel. Notice your energy. What's your mood like? What's your focus like? What's your sleep like? Because as you focus on these simple little changes that you can do daily, none of them are magical. They're not sexy. They're not maybe that new. Well, maybe walking after a meal could be new for some of you, or getting out in the morning light, but they're not anything difficult, right? But they're signals. Changing the signals will change your biology and will change your life. So I just want to end with this. Ask yourself the question, who are you becoming? I ask myself this every day. Who am I becoming? Because the signals I send with every meal, every workout, every night's sleep, every difficult conversation, every act of kindness, all the signals I send on every other ordinary Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday, it's quietly shaping that person that you're becoming. It's always been. And the beautiful part of all this is that your body will respond to the new signals starting today. Not next week, next month, or next year, starting today. So take the 7-day challenge. And if you want to remember some of this, there's a guide that I've created for this podcast. It'll be in the show notes. It's called The 5 Questions That Will Change Your Future. It's a simple resource. It's beautiful. You can download it in the link in the show notes. And I've even attached to that, if you would like, my personal supplement stack, because I do take a couple supplements, which are actually less in number than they used to be. So take dozens. Now I'm down to about 5. Super simple, super actionable, and powerful. And if you're ready to take the next step, maybe you're curious about what's happening inside your own personal body, inside your own personal temple, you want to know what's going on, you got to get some data, right? Test, don't guess. Take a look at my accelerator program. We'll do a bunch of testing. We'll talk about it. We'll evaluate your signals. We'll change your signals, change your biology, and we will change your life. Finally, as I've shared, I'm so excited about my upcoming book, The Biology of Becoming, and I would love for you to be a part of that. I'll also drop a link in the show notes of the podcast, how you can get involved. And so to close it out, remember that although you can't change your birthday, you can't change your genetics, but what you can change is your biology. Yes, with the signals that you choose each and every day. It's not going to happen all at once, but it does happen one decision at a time. It's just one decision. It's one meal, one workout, one night's sleep, one conversation, one act of courage on any ordinary day. Rinse and repeat. Because every choice is just a signal, and every signal shapes your biology, and your biology shapes your life and the person you are becoming. Because you're becoming somebody. Why not become the person you were meant to be? So until next time, make sure you're partnering with your biology and not fighting it. Be a partner. Work with your body. It wants to help you, it wants to save you, it wants to keep you alive, and it also wants you to thrive. So if you've enjoyed today's episode, there's anything that stood out for you, I'd love to hear about it. I'd love to have you drop me a review over on Apple, subscribe to it, share it with a friend, a family member, a colleague, a kid, a parent, your neighbor, right? Because together we can literally affect change in our own lives and in many others. Because lasting, enduring, optimal health, it's not about perfection. It's just about consistently sending the right signals. It's so easy, so simple. So remember, your body's not broken. Your metabolism's not even broken. It's simply responding, because every choice is a signal, and every signal shapes your biology. And every day you're becoming someone. And I hope it's that person you were meant to be, to do that thing that you were sent here to do, because uniquely you are only that person, the one and only who can do that specific ikigai, the purpose, the passion, the mission. Only you can do that. And I hope that you'll be able to, because you'll feel energized, beautiful, passionate, right? There's an old Chinese proverb that says, the person who lacks health has only one desire, and the one who is healthy has a million dreams. I totally botched that, but you know what I'm saying. If you have health, you have a million dreams, and if you don't have health, you have only one, right? To get and be healthy. So without a big chutzpah or a big dialogue, I just want you to know that I'm here for you. I love and appreciate you. I'm so grateful that you're here. Share this out. I would really appreciate that. Until next time, just a big, warm, loving aloha.